Amadaki ape, apentu washte. Chante washte anape chiyuz ape. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. I greet you all with a good heart. My name is Sheldon Buffalo. I will be your MC today, along with Whitecap Dakota First Nation Youth MC, Drew Swain. I am a Wapahaska Dakota Oyate band member who has been walking this good life for 45 years. I am proud to share my knowledge with the youth in my community and with land-based teachings, in talking and sharing circles with the older youth and men.
Okay. Ampetu Shemi Taki. Gawanitu Agem Shakbe. African American and Dakota Lakota Kushka Himacha. Upahaska Dakota Oyate Ed Omawapi. I attend Holy Cross School and will be heading into grade 11 in the fall. I walk the red road and practice my Catholic faith. Growing up, I always understood the importance of my Dakota Lakota culture and often asked my grandmother to share Dakota stories and beliefs. I have a background in public speaking. I speak about racism and how it has affected me as an African American and Indigenous person, and I continue to be vocal about civil rights and racism. I have a love of basketball, and my goal is to be a professional basketball player with a degree in structural engineering.
Amadaki, welcome to the third annual Whitecap Dakota First Nation Ochi Shakoi, Revitalizing Our Sacred Languages virtual conference. This year, we are recognizing our Ochi Shakoi relatives in Dakota, Lakota Nation. As our grand entry MC advised earlier, we have a great lineup of speakers today.
The first speaker who will share his wisdom today is Tommy Christian, coming to us live from Poplar, Montana. Tommy Christian is a champion dancer, politician, and powwow MC, and is well respected in all three areas. Tommy has remained grounded, humble, and gained vast amounts of knowledge from his teachings of the elders. Christian will share his knowledge and guidance on how he prepares mentally, physically, and spiritually for dancing and how that applies to life. Please welcome him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Tommy.
Should I start now or Cody?
Yeah, you can start now.
That's it, Tuelo. How? Hey, Mitaki api daya hipi naha Dakota api woyawa oyateki omnichia hecha Tuelo. Daya chano huka he wana kikta. Wichacha la mia lo lila oteki ke kiktao. But again, how Mitaki api, I'd like to welcome you all here, and I'll be speaking to you for about 45 minutes, and we'll use the last 15 minutes for some questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in contact, and we'll get them to our MCs, and they'll ask me the questions. So again, I hope you all had a good sleep. Hope everything is doing well. But just kind of a formal introduction on my part as it relates to my Lakota, Dakota, Nakona background. So how mitaki epidaya hipi. Ushimalo exjewi chashamelo. Hohe chajemita wamnisha ge doba imachiape. Ambe tukile michante eta oaglake nahana pe chuza pelo. Lakolia api jik ala nahavu wasichu woaglake washte. Wasichu woaglake wainkte. Ushimalo omake agnagupta wayawa oyateki heche tuelo. All my relatives, again, we'd like to welcome you all here to our meeting here on the Dakota meeting, gathering all of our youth and helping them to understand the importance of Nitakiapi Wachiniapelo. Your relatives are depending on you. They always share with us some good things, and as I've had an opportunity to sit with many teachers that in my lifetime. I'm currently 68 years old. I've been involved in our culture for about, almost 50 years now. So it's something that is important to me. Again, as we do these things, we understand that there's lots that influences us throughout our lifetimes, and again, one of the things that I'd like to share with you all as being a spiritual leader here on the Fort Peck Assiniboine Sioux Reservation. I was also a tribal leader. I used to say for 18 years, but after I looked at it, I just did that for 16. I was trying to embellish my political career there a little bit, but I figured it out. I was on there for 16 years as a tribal leader, and in during that time, I had an opportunity to really kind of make myself stronger in different areas of my character. And I think that's what I'm going to speak to you all about today, as it relates to how important it is to maintain that strength. Representing not only yourself but your tribe, yeah, yeah, and your people, your family, in a good way, with some sense of dignity and honor, to maintain the integrity of who we are as a people. If you believe that you're indigenous to the Turtle Island, that's very, very key and important. So, as we continue to go on this beautiful day that the Creator has blessed us with, again, uh, in my introduction, I shared with y'all, Ambe tukile michante tauaglake. And what I mean by that, what I'm saying by that is, on this day, I'm going to speak to you from my heart. And the reason I say that is because if I was wishing to speak to you from my mouth, I'd be wishing to impress you. But I'm wishing to speak to you from my heart because I'm wishing to affect you. As you understand these things in our language, it's key and first and foremost to understand there is no sarcasm when we speak our language. What we mean is what we say, and what we say is what we mean. What we chaki ob omani. What that means is I walk with the truth, eh? And so in respect to these things, we always try to help ourselves understand the responsibility we have to ourselves. And that's why I think it's important for each and every one of you all to understand, on this day, I'm sharing with you. I'm not telling you nothing. I would never disrespect you by telling you what to do. I don't know enough about anything to tell you anything, but I can share some of the understandings that I have. There's a difference in our learning process, especially with the Wayawa Oyateki, Koshkapi, we Koshkapi. Our people that are in school, our young men and our young women, uh, what you're learning about is what they call linear educational process, eh? Reading, writing, arithmetic. But on this side, what hopefully you'll have again an understanding is about the abstract learning process, which represents that experiential teaching. And you usually get that from a land-based opportunity to learn something, eh? Experiential teaching. And so once we understand the difference that exists there, then we can go forward and realize our opportunity to acquire a sense of balance. There's nothing wrong with accessing the knowledge that's there based on learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But at the same time, we want to achieve that sense of balance by getting that experiential teaching, affording ourselves an opportunity to listen to some of the teachers that we nuk chalapi now, we chak chalapi, won't speak ya hemita. A lot of my teachers were the old ladies and old men that I hold dear to my hearts, that helped me along the way by graciously sharing with me in this manner. So, as cool as I sound and all that good stuff, all these good things that I share with you, I wish I could claim them, but I can't. It's something that I took advantage of as it relates to the graciousness in which I was taught. I was shared these experiences, so all the information that I share with you today is as a result of the teachers that carried that wisdom for so long, and they had an opportunity and a respectful way to share it with me. Is that cool or what? Yeah, that's a good thing, because it's an Indian thing. And we do these things in such a good way. There's so many protocols that we follow. One of the things I would like to share with you is to understand we're not a religious people. And the reason I say that is because we don't follow a doctrine, eh? We don't have to do anything. but we're a spiritual people because we understand the importance of protocol and following those protocols to maintain a connection with which what we find is very important, and that connection is with our spirit world. That's our reality. You know, a lot of people may not understand how and why we do things, but what that is representative of is a diversity and a uniqueness that's based on natural law that should become an enhancement and an enrichment for the sake of the growth of our children. And our children are representative of our future. And that's the intent. And so as we do these things, eh, it's hard to be an Indian, but I love my Indian ways, Geabado. That's what they say, eh? And so when I make reference to that, uh, uh, how they say, when we refer to ourselves as Lakota, Dakota, Nakona, uh, we understand the importance of realizing Ekchea Wichashapi. That means we're just all common people. And in this Wakantanka, the spiritual energies, eyes, if you will, we're all the same. There's nobody better, there's nobody less. And under that spiritual concept of believing that, Woichada, having that faith in that, we realize that we are just common people. We don't have no doctrine that says we have dominion over anything, but at the same time, we realize that we're here, we're in this and walking our Mother Earth, Unchimakaumani, in such a good way, eh? And so it's always the best teacher for us in times like this is observation. And so, as we continue to go on, and a lot of the teachings that I'll share with you within this next 40 minutes or so is about uh, observation. That's the best teacher. That has to address that abstract learning process, that ability to really be observant, taken into the perspective, and keeping in context that natural process of instinct. Eh? Now, instinctively we have that survival, and in that survival there's that instinct of fear. And my father used to tell me, you know, fear can really control people, and if you exploit it, then you can maintain this narcissistic ego-fied attitude of controlling others, eh? And I've been in ceremonies where you get the wapia wichashapi, you gets carried away and gets narcissistic and stuff like that. But that's all right, that's good, that's him. But at the same time, there's those common men, ekchewichasha, that conduct the ceremony in a very, very respectful manner. They don't tell you what to do, how to do it, what to say, all that, which instills fear because that presents an opportunity for confusion. But if you go where you afford the understanding and the importance of critical thought, then you realize the importance of continuing on in any ceremony or in life in general without being afraid. You know, they talk about, and they have this romanticized Hollywood perspective on what Indian people are. And they refer to us as a stoic Indian. You know, to them, their inference is we're stoic because we're stupid, or we're imbeciles, or we don't know, and so we're just have this real stoic face. But to me, understanding the importance of that very stoic way that we see things, what that means to me is no fear. We have no fear, eh? And so that gives you that understanding that we do things differently. It's important for this diversity to be represented and to be respected, because my dad would tell me, if we were all the same, it would be so boring, eh? And so that diversity is represented in the manner in which you, as an individual, understanding the dysfunctional process of individualism, which is I, me, my, and individuality, which is us, we, and them. We're individuality, and we're trying to represent that because we do what we do and the manner in which we do them for the sake of others. You'll hear people, don't forget to pray about yourself. Well, in some cases, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to pray about myself. I'm here to wochikia, mitakiapi, wachiniape. My relatives are depending on me, so I'm going to give this heartfelt cry for the sake of others. And you see, so we need to understand some of these things as it relates to how we continue to view life, how we continue to accept our worldview in respects to who we are and what we are, because we strongly believe we come from our Mother Earth, and we have a responsibility to that uh, identification, if you will, through this representation of this diversity, but at the same time maintaining the uniqueness that evolves from this natural law in respects to our ceremony, our culture, our language that is representative of our uniqueness. So in that process, it's important that all of you young people understand that uh, mitaki epi brehichiapo, nitaki epi wachiniapelo. And what I shared with you is my relatives, make yourself strong. Your relatives are depending on you. And you approach it in that way. So you go beyond yourself to understand the importance of the involvement of our cultural value system. And it has a lot to do with sacrifice. Denying ourselves, and you go beyond yourselves by denying yourselves food, water, pain, because we pierce ourselves and all that. That's not a savage thing to be doing. That's a very how do you say, way of letting this spiritual energy, Wakantanka, know that we're committed and we're sincere to this understanding we can make a difference in this world for the sake of Wola Kota Makasit Omani. And that's peace and harmony all over the universe. We can be a part of that. We can become that. We can live our life respectfully in such a good way that based on our teachings, based on sitting down and listening to old people talk, and and it's such a beautiful way of life that it's hard to deny it. But when people are trying to control you based on fear and all that good stuff, oh man, that really kind of uh, makes them feel bad because they can't control you because you're a critical thinker. And you go out there and you let them know, I have my own mind, I have my own thoughts, I have my own way of doing things. And once we accept that, then we realize there's nothing wrong with being ethnocentric in that regard. But we're very inclusive ceremonially. We include everybody. We refer to the human beings as huhu nupa, and that's the two-legged. Huhu dopa, that's the four-legged. Chobawi oyateki, the winged. Dagushkanshka oyateki, all the bugs. All those things, they're all included in that, what we refer to as the changleshka. And the changleshka, to me, is the circle of life. And then we're all the same in that circle. So we use terms like ekchewichasha. So as we do these things, my relatives, when I started, I said, Ushimala Omakiana Agnagupta, you pity me and help me by listening. And as we do these things, it's hard to sit back and listen to people that are telling you what to do. But if I share this with you, then the ownness belongs to you. That's very respectful, right? And then you accept it if you want to, or you don't accept it if you don't want to. That's cool. That's good. That's all right. But that's an indication of respect from me to y'all. And so as we do these things, the graciousness in which I was taught, if it was up to me, I'd tell y'all what to do because I'm so narcissistic and ego-fied because I'm a man. I want to control everything, man. But in a good way, I was taught how to carry on this sort of a character and developed it. The caring, the sharing, the compassion, the empathy, the loving, and having the strength and the ability to not be afraid, eh? Stoic, remember? Not be afraid and go out there and express those feelings because we're human beings. You know, one young man asked me, he said, Uncle, what's the difference between the animals and the men? He said, because in our books, they tell us that the humans have dominion over animals. And he said, because we can be rational and logical. And that's not true. I said, I don't believe that. Well, what's the difference between animals and men? I said, and humans and men. I said, humans and animals, I mean. They said, what's the difference? And I said, the difference between humans and animals is humans can kill from a distance. Think about that one. You see, and so as we relate to that, because we're all the same, remember, we're all the same, even with the animals. We don't believe we have dominion over anybody, we don't control anything, but yet we have this woichada, or woichala, whatever you want to refer to it, this faith that we believe and understand that every action is evolved from the Creator. Our life was put out for us by the Creator. But again, it wasn't done in a dominant way. It wasn't done in an autocratic manner. It was done for choices that we make based on the choices we make as we walk this red road. Uh, you know, it's an understanding of thinking somewhat differently, but don't ostracize yourself or alienate yourself from society itself. There's a duality in which we exist in that helps us to understand, you know, one of the things like currently, you know, evidently, the non-Indian people carry guilt differently than the Indian people. Us, we understand because we relent that to this higher power. Uh, the non-Indian people carry it for some reason. I don't know why, but they carry that, and it affects them, you know, emotionally. It kind of deters them from concentrating on what the survival instinctively they should be concentrating on. So that's the difference that's there amongst us. But there's nothing, it's not right or it's not wrong. It's just different. But being able to recognize that diversity that's there is respectful. Um, uh, One of the things that, as it relates to critical thought, that's what I really wanted to present to the young people, is how we depend on them to be strong enough in their character with exercising these virtues each and every day as much as they can, the compassion, the empathy, the caring, the sharing, the loving, the generosity, the patience. If you can try to exercise those each and every day, you can help yourself realize just where your areas where you need help, right? Like if you're not very patient, you got to work on the patience. If you're not very generous, you got to work on the generosity. But you never give enough. You never give it all away just trying to prove how generous you are. You got to keep something for yourself so you can, so you're not in need. But a lot of times, you know, people, and this confusion is presented to you based on others trying to control you because you're living to standards that are alien to us as common people, as Chewichasha. And those standards, you can see them through the rules and regulations and the laws that our non-Indian relatives have. And that applies to them fine. You know, one of the prime examples is like Indian time. There's a negative connotation as it relates to Indian time, according to our non-Indian relatives. You're always late, you're never here. Yeah, I live by it. I don't force it. If I'm going to a meeting and I'm not on the time that they told me to be there, then something came up. I'll get there when I get there. And we don't carry that stress and that pressure, but that's not a negative thing. It's a good thing because, again, that is representation of our belief system, our wowichada, that faith that we have. And so we'll get there when we get there. It'll get done when it happens. And everybody gets stressed out over time. Uh, I haven't wore a watch in over 30 years because, again, I was taught not to be stressed out by trying to be on time and have everything in order and all that good stuff. In certain arenas, that's important. You can't be late for meetings and stuff like that. But in our cultural, spiritual way, we always should try to remain somewhat apolitical and apersonal. Does that make sense? The reason being is because if we make things political or personal, it becomes our agenda is going for ourselves. But if we can remain apolitical or apersonal, then hey, it's for others. And see, that's what Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, that's what that means. I'm your ally, I'm your friend, I'll help you in times of need. That's what we refer to ourselves as. And so, in that understanding, we always try to be realizing that Ekchewi Chashapi are always there to help out. And we need to kind of start addressing the truth, if you will, from our own perspective and from our own minds. We can figure it out. We got a mind of our own that we're given before we came here. And as we do these things, we understand the importance of our teachers. And again, are they trying to control me and present confusion to make me afraid? Because from that fear comes anger, and from that anger usually evolves violent acts. Or when we get confused, our teachers trying to provide us with clarity, and that clarity will dispel that confusion, and then I don't have to be afraid, I don't have to be angry, I don't have to go into acts of violence, eh? And that's the difference. That's who we are as Dakota, Lakota, Nakota people, or any person that believes they're indigenous to Turtle Island. That's a basic fundamental spiritual approach to how we live our lives. And so we're not apathetic about the problems we have, but understand a lot of the behavior of our contemporary Indian nations is a learned behavior as a result of residential or boarding school or forced assimilation based on a standard of way of life that is totally alien to us as a spiritual people. So think about that. Think about how our daily life affects us. Are we greedy? Some people say wasichu means greedy. It doesn't mean greedy. You know, based on Nakona, Dakota, or Lakota people, when they were, remember I talked about observation? The observation is the best teacher. When they were first involved with the non-Indian people, they come upon them, and these poor things, they never come this far west before, and they didn't know how to fend for themselves. And so the Indians are kind of watching them, you know, the Dakotas, Lakotas kind of watching them kind of trek along here. They were starving, they couldn't find water, they had dysentery, all this good stuff. And so the Indians went down there and said, well, we'll help these guys out, they're having a tough time, so we'll go down there. And so they invited them into their camp. And when they came into the camp, they were starving, eh? So the Indian people had this meat there, and they seen these guys were starving. So these non-Indians run up and grab this meat, and they ate the fat because that was the best part of the meat, eh? And so from that, based on their observation, they referred to these non-Indian people that were very pale. They referred to them as washi ichu. They took the fat because they were starving. You see, that's observation. And a lot of times we'll find that based on that understanding, it doesn't mean greedy. It just means that they were in need. And so when the Indians observed them trying to fulfill their regain their energy, they ate the fat first. And so, washi ichu. Ah, hey, that makes sense? Yeah, like when they got into involved with these Washichus, and then they got involved with the Germans. The Germans, they had their own language. You know, they spoke German, and they couldn't speak English very well. And so, based on observation, what did we call them? Iasicha. They don't speak well, eh? Because they couldn't have their own language and they didn't speak English very well. So Iasicha. Yeah. And then like Let's see what's another. Gesuna, gesuna. That means one braid in the back, eh? One braid in the back, and that's in reference to the Oriental people, because well, their involvement was with Chinese people. Chinese wear one braid. Japanese don't do that, but the Chinese and they wore one braid in the back because they were worked on railroad, and so they referred to them as gesuna, that one braid in the back. You see that observation, and of course, it wasn't calling them names or making fun of them. It was based on observation. They were identifying them with what they saw. And so, in that naturalness of our observation and our learning perspective, we always recognized them from what we heard, what we saw, what we listened to. So, in that natural law process, it's a really a good way of life to understand some of the basics and the fun foundations of this natural law. So that's why I refer to it as realizing natural law is based on our ability to be observant, kind of like that. But and continuing to go on about critical thinking, you need what we could do and understand that's important to us is our ability to understand who and what we are, and that gets to not looking away and blaming others, but looking inwardly and accepting the responsibility of being a human being. Eh? Uh, Lakota he macha tukehia. Lakota wa macha tukehia. There was an older man, he said that one time. And there was a white guy sitting by me, and he said, what did he say? He said, you're all Indians first, and I'm an Indian first. And that white guy looked at me and said, but I'm not an Indian. And I said, no, that's not what he meant to say. His intent spiritually was, you're all human beings first, and I'm a human being first. Does that make sense? Can you relate to that now? Because that's an inclusive statement spiritually of who we are as common people. And again, we include everybody. We don't deny anybody because as human beings, we think differently. And again, we can learn lots from the plants, the animals, the insects for the sake of our survival. And of course, and again, we have protocols as human beings to help us understand our purpose and our dedication in life. And what we do when we do that, when we get about the age of 13 or 14 and we start acquiring our own scent, and the uncles come up and say, okay, boy, you're ready to go. And so, as pitiful as the men are, they got to go what they call humbletia, eh? Humbletia. And that means you go sit on the hill and you cry all night for a vision for 4 days and for 4 nights without any food or water uh, for the sake of understanding your purpose and your dedication in life. Eh? And in that process, it's important to realize that every one of us have a purpose and a dedication in life. All men. But you know what's different there? All women are blessed with it already. They've already maintained that connection with our spirit world, and they realize that every 28 days. And so, in that opportunity, we got to understand we regard and revere our women very highly, and with reverence, even because they can uh, um, give life, eh? And so that's why that standard in which we live, where they call us a noble savage, like we just beat up our wives and abuse our kids and we're drunk all the time and we're lazy and no account, don't want to work. That's not who we are. Who we are warriors, and we're protectors and we're providers of our tioshbais, of our tiwanhes. And in that process, we understand the importance of keeping our children in the middle with our women right next to them and protect them and provide for them. But because of Hollywood or this romanticized definition of who they thought we were, in respects to savages, heathens, and pagans that don't have no belief, oh man, that really we didn't say nothing back because it would have been disrespectful, but we just continued to live our life as we understood. We didn't infringe or impose anybody else's life to live like us, but we just lived ours the way it was, and we didn't have to explain ourselves or justify our existence or legitimize who and what we were, because we understood we were here, and will continue to be here and remain here as it relates to this different way of living their life, I guess. Henielo, that's them. And so let them do that. That's a respectful thing. But all these things affect our ability to coexist in a contemporary way of life now because of such things as social media. Like when I was growing up, my worldview was the Poplar Creek and just in my little community, eh? But now, as our young people, the Wayama Oyateki Kushkapi, we Kushkapi, your worldview is at a press of a button, just that. You know what's going on around the whole world. And in that process, we have to adapt our cultural value system to understand the importance of letting our young people process a lot of this information that they take in a day, helping us understand the importance of not living so fast that you leave stuff behind. And as we do these things, like what we're doing today on this, I would call it Dagushkashka Blaska. This thing that's moving all the time that's flat. But that's what I call it anyway. But it's a computer. In our language, they say it's where you store things. That's how they would say that with the computer. But I call it Dagushkashka Blaska. This thing that's moving all over that's flat. That's what I call it. But anyway, we're doing that based on this contemporary perspective, and this old folks got to adapt to that. We got to understand the importance of getting a little bit more technically involved and not being disrespectful, but trying to maintain some sense of respect as it relates to the integrity of our protocols and our ceremony. And a lot of people will say, no, you're not supposed to do that, you're not supposed to do that. But at the same time, we're not respecting the future of our young people. We're not affording them avenues to approach some of the issues that they're going to be contended with as it relates to their worldview. Okay? And so it's something that we can adapt to, we can adjust to, but yet still maintain the integrity of our ceremony by always being respectful. Our intent is to share that respect and not be left behind per se, not being held back because we're too superstitious or too strong-minded not to be able to adapt. So we got to afford our young people to teach us as well. Like anything technical, my son is the one that helps me do all these things because I really don't know, but my technical abilities have really been uh, promoted by him because he knows how to do it easy. But me, it's great. It's very kind of scary for me. But even like my older brother, Nietzsche Ole, Earl Bullhead, he's in the same boat as I am. He has to have his son do all his stuff because we do podcasts and stuff. And every week we do podcasts from the Fort Peck Community College, where I'm the cultural advisor for the college here in Fort Peck. But uh, he had to kind of adapt and get his technical skills up a little bit, but his son does all that stuff for him. So us old folks can't be afraid to do these things. Us old folks got to step up, and we got to go beyond the superstition. And one way to help us go beyond that fear and that control is getting over superstition, getting real, addressing these realities in a manner that has got some contemporary influence, but at the same time, again, maintaining and sustaining the integrity of our value system. But we have to learn that. We have to adapt and adjust that, not compromise it. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying compromising the protocol, but again, at the same time, just kind of making an adjustment. Does that make sense to y'all? Is that little something that we can all kind of get involved in and stuff as it relates to COVID? You know, there's a silver lining in this COVID, this pandemic that happened. Did you ever think about the world ever cleaning itself up? And look what COVID did. It made everybody slow down. In Hong Kong, those guys never ever knew what fresh air was. But once everybody stayed home, man, their skies were clear, the smog was gone. Los Angeles never knew what the fresh air was like. Here in Poplar, we have class 1 air, so we breathe fresh air every day. But those guys had to contend with smog. But once they all stayed home, then they realized, hey, we can live a better life, a more healthier life if we just all stayed home and slowed down a little bit. And the key word there is slow down. I thought we were living a little bit too fast and we were leaving a lot of things behind. A lot of those things were, and that's the way I saw it, a perspective of natural law. And we're just running too fast on this red road and not bringing those things along. But when COVID showed up, it sure made people look up. It sure made people pay attention to how we need to instinctively survive. And as we do these things, we realize that we can make a difference, and we have made a difference. We are currently, the indigenous people of Turtle Island are currently representative of being the alpha wolves of an attempt of genocide. So we are people that survived that. And so if we don't look at ourselves like that, we won't realize the beauty in our cultural value system based on the protocol that helped us to kind of overcome some of these atrocities that were inflicted on us. And we're a very quiet people. We do things in our own way based on our faith. We don't go out and virtual signal and, oh, I'm such a good guy and I did this, I did. We don't do that. We just sit back and we depend a lot on wuchikia, a heartfelt cry for the sake of others. We do a lot of that. That's why we suffer. That's why we sit on the hill. That's why we go and do a lot of the things that we do for the sake of others. And I'm hoping that my discussion didn't offend anybody or didn't hurt anybody's feelings, but it helped us to recognize the diversity and the uniqueness based on natural law should become an empowerment and an enrichment for the sake of the growth of our young people. So if you could learn anything and remember anything from my discussion, I would hope that you would understand that, and you can write that down and utilize that however you want to. But that's what we need to do. We need to recognize the diversity. We're not all the same. That's important. Our uniqueness in our ceremony, our language, and our cultural value system is important. And we need to not be afraid to be ethnocentric and identify with our own uniqueness, but at the same time understand the importance of who and what we are. So with that all being said, I think I'm just about done with my 45 minutes there, Cody. So well, is there any questions that anybody had? I was kind of talking fast because we can talk like this, geez, for 4 or 5 days and not get it all said. So what do you think, Cody?
Well, it's Sheldon here, not Cody, but as far as I could tell, nobody has
Sheldon, I'm
any.
sorry, but it has
Oh,
Cody Barndog on your on your thing there.
oh yeah, that's my Indian name now.
Oh, well,
Well, as far as I could tell, nobody has any questions. I just have one question for you.
uh-huh.
When's the last time you danced, Wachipo?
Oh, shit, probably about 5 years ago. Yeah, I haven't danced in a while. I'm getting too
Oh.
old. Vichachala mialo. Lila.
Well, you still look as young as you did before when I first met you many moons ago.
Yeah. Oh, right on, Sheldon. But
Oh, okay, well, thank you very much, Koda Tommy, for joining us. Your wise words gives us a lot to think about.
and
Nina
then
Whoop.
Sheldon, I was just going to ask. This is going to be archived, right?
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
everything's
Okay.
all recorded.
Yeah. So that's why I was kind of talking fast and all that good stuff. I wanted to get as much in there as we possibly could for the sake of that clarity that I was talking about. But geez, I
Uh-huh.
really appreciate what our young people are doing. And again, you know, la kowicho kanta kligano, la kowicho kanta chiada. It's hard to be an Indian, but we love our Indian ways. But that's a inclusive statement. It's hard to be human, but I love my human ways. And once we understand that, we can include ourselves in that changleshka with all the plants, the animals, the bugs, and all that good stuff, and
Oh.
just appreciate that. So heche tualo, doksha ke wachu gink te kola.
Oh, Doksha, okay. Nina Wopara Tanka.
Oh.
Oh.